to host a couple. We're super excited this morning, Richard, to host a couple of dynamic first year grantees and give the first year grantees an opportunity to not only showcase their work, but to talk about lessons learned and to talk about things that they may do differently as they apply for the revised grassroots fund. So I'm David Miller. I'm one of the TA providers. Want to throw it over to Richard to introduce himself, and we're going to get started.
Thank you, David. Thank you very, very much for that intro. And as David indicated, we are here for you all and have been here since late March with an array of outstanding technical assistant presentations. This is just another in the series. We believe that you will be provided everything you need to submit, those of you who are applying for the grant, to submit a successful application. If you attend the sessions or if you go to the recordings, everything is there. And as Brother Adam indicated, everything is also on the website. All you need to do is visit the website and you can basically see everything you need in order to submit a successful application. So again, my name is Richard Rowe. I am also one of the TA consultants and a principal for the Strategic Resources Group, that's an organization that basically, or entity that provides support, capacity building support to grassroots organizations, along with one of our key members, Regina Sally, and also Ms. Janine Gotzi is also part of the team. Catrice Alfonso, we have about several other folks that are part of our team, and we are here to serve you all and to basically provide you with the assistance that you need, again, to submit a successful application. But as David indicated, this is one of those afternoons or mornings, afternoon that we will basically offer, a informal kind of conversation. This is not going to be that formal, slides and all those PowerPoints and so forth, but we really wanted to get into figuring out how best you can be enlightened by folks who have gone through this process. And we have two outstanding grantees that were part of the year one submission of a proposal, won a grant, and basically have been operating their programs since then. And great things have happened for them as a result of their awards. And so we believe that they have something to share, something that can be valuable to all of you who are looking this time around to submit an application. So without further ado, we want to really recognize these two organizations and give them an opportunity to say something about who they are, and also what their organization, their mission, and so forth. If we can give them a few minutes to talk about that, that would be great.
And so, Richard, just additionally, we do have Dion Davidson on board, an additional year one grantee.
Oh, great.
And so, as Richard indicated, we're gonna start by giving each of the programs, give you about a minute just to talk about your program in broad terms. Give folks an idea of the population that you serve and what you actually do. And if your program is germane to a specific neighborhood or zip code, you may want to share that. And then we're going to go a little deeper into the application process, first year, lessons learned, and anything you want to highlight. So let's start off with Dion Davidson. I want you to really share, just take about 60 seconds to share some information about your program.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dion Davidson from Beadley Speaking Jewelry and Beadley Speaking Kids Jewelry Making Program. I'm so excited to talk about our program because of where we've come from as a result of this grant. Our program focuses on using wellness as a catalyst to promote awareness for mental health, also using jewelry making to promote wellness, and in a time when COVID was raging in 2020, it was the perfect opportunity to provide that service to our children. We serve young girls 2nd grade through 12th grade. And we serve girls all over the city, so it's not one location. And yeah, that's pretty much what we do. We make all types of jewelry, and our program is centered around not just jewelry making, but having key discussions that can promote self-awareness and also, like I said, wellness. So I'll get into that a little bit later, but that's pretty much the gist of what we do.
Thank you, thank you. Important work being done by Sister Davidson's organization with a specific focus on girls. And so next, let's go to Brother Turner. Ryan Turner, you're up next.
You mean Dr. Ryan?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, he may have some tech challenges.
No, I'm good. When you said
Okay.
Turner, that I wasn't sure if he was talking about me, but I'm
Right.
good to go. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Good.
Mhm.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ryan, co-founder of the Ryan Institute. And so our program was funded for our Jewels and Gems civic leadership program. And the goal behind this Jewels and Gems civic leadership program is really to help our students develop and learn soft skills outside of an academic environment. And so the Ryan Institute ourselves, we pride ourselves on providing academic support for students of all ages, even through adults. But aside from that, what we realize in Baltimore City, especially, is that a lot of times our students, they lack some soft skills to kind of help them navigate life. And so our civic leadership program was really helping them develop those soft skills, things like, social etiquette, conflict resolution, social media, management, financial literacy, and so forth. And so those are the things that we really try to focus on with our Jewels and Gems program. And then also shout out to Dion. Dion is one of our community partners that we work with very intensely, but also we're also a client. My daughter participated in Beatley Speaking Kids. And my daughter actually launched her jewelry company thanks to Dion. So shout out to Dion.
Nice. Let's go to Brother Jabari.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay,
Good morning.
so I'm Jabari. I'm from Conscious Heads Barbering Bootcamp, and we train people on the skill of barbering. Barbering has been taken out of many of the schools. It's been taken out of Carver, Mervo, Emerson. So there is no barbering program that exists pretty much in the city of Baltimore. So what we do is we have a what we call a pre-apprentice program where we prepare barbers to be able to stand on the barbering floor and get that. Well, when you go through my program, you don't get your apprenticeship, you just get the basic skills. But afterwards, if you want to proceed, we have a network of master barbers that will put you under, and then you can proceed to get your license from there. We have been a part of the process of changing the laws because now you can do 3 apprentices at one time. So our barbering boot camp was instrumental in changing that law. So now we can do up to 3 at one time. It used to be just 1 at that time. So our key people that we were looking for when we did the youth fund were between 16 and 24. But as we talk, we'll talk about, the adjustment to that number and all. But yeah, so that's what we do.
Thank you. And as you guys can see, we have a robust offering of first-year grantees that cover everything from, workforce development with Jabari in the boot camp, to Dr. Ryan teaching young people soft skills, and to Sister Davidson, who's doing, jewelry making and life skills and working on self-esteem and self-confidence. So Richard, let's just go ahead and dive right in, because we really want folks to get a better understanding of folks who have already been funded through the youth fund, to get a better understanding of how they've been able to use those dollars to elevate their work. And so, Richard, I'll take the first question.
Okay.
And we'll go with Sister Davidson, we'll go to Jabari, and then Dr. Ryan. That will be the order that we'll go with. And so the first question is really, talk about how this infusion of cash, talk about how that year 1, year 2 BCYF funding helped your program? And so we'll start with Sister Davidson.
So we didn't have any capital. I've been doing this work for years out of my own paycheck, pension pennies. So I was grateful to be funded. We were funded for 9,000, and we actually didn't get to do our program the first year. We came in under the second year because of some technicalities with insurance, but thank God that worked out. And so like I said, our program was happening in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. And it was great because I was able to purchase all the materials and tools that I needed for the program. And so each child were able to receive all the materials. I boxed everything up and took it to them, did a virtual program. So I'm not sure, how it would have looked without the funding, especially in a COVID situation, being able to do a program virtually and not have to share tools. So that money was very vital. It was also important because that was like one of the first times that I actually got paid for what I was doing. Honestly, if you've been doing this work, you just work. If you get a little dollars here and there, it goes towards materials. There was never compensation for your time and talents. And so I was grateful for that part as well, because I was able to do other things for my business. And um, it's been a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It's giving me material, tools. We were able to pay staff to teach them, to further teach them on how to train other people. So that was very instrumental. Also make improvements in our program, to make improvements around in the shop to create, many of the stations and, floor and different things, just different things to improve the look of the boot camp. But it really helped us out to really get our feet grounded, because we had already been doing the program. But of course, like I said, we didn't have any funding prior to me just, what I would charge other people. But it really helped out, like I said, with us being able to charge, to see what it looks like to have staff and pay staff and all those different things. So it was really definitely something that really helped our program.
And so before we go to Dr. Ryan, two things that I want to highlight that we're hearing from first year grantees, that the grant dollars really help to support growth in the organization in terms of, paying staff, folks who had already been doing the work at a high level, but hadn't received any compensation. And then dollars were used to be able to provide, training and also, elevate some existing things that you were working on within your program. So I think that those are two really, really important things, Sister Davis and Brother Jabari, to highlight and make mention of, for people who are thinking about applying for the Grassroots Fund. And so let's go to Dr. Ryan. Doc, tell us, how the grant impacted your organization.
Yeah, and so similar to the previous panelists, one thing it definitely allowed us to do is really expand. We were already running our program at BIA, elementary, middle school, and then we were able to expand to additional schools. So we was able to expand to Fairleigh, we was able to expand to Johnson Square and Gilmore. And so we was able to expand our program, and then also allowed us to really, which was to us was a big deal, was help fund transportation, because one thing that we like to do with our students is we like to expose them to Coppin and Morgan, hands down. My wife and I, we both are graduates of Morgan, and we bleed blue and orange. And so the fact that we had so many students that never been to Morgan, they never been to Morgan's campus, it was a big deal for us to always take them to Morgan. Dr. Wilson, who's the president of the president of Morgan, he was always very supportive of our program. So anytime we brought the kids on board, on campus, he will always be there to welcome them and stuff like that. So it really helped us to expand. And when we expand, obviously we had to add staff, so we was able to pay staff, and then we will also again take care of those transportation costs. And then of course, with kids, anytime you have them for multiple hours, you got to feed them. And so, that food budget was kind of helped us as well. So, I mean, we was able to just do so much for so many kids throughout our program. So that was one of the main things for us.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Before I toss it over to Richard, some important takeaways. You guys were able to pay for food and transportation. I mean, those are things that we know tend to be barriers for programs in Baltimore City. So I think that, again, for those that are thinking about applying, those who will watch this recorded session, I think that those are some key takeaways that could help influence folks' decision of whether or not they want to apply for the Grassroots Fund. Richard?
Sorry about that. And also, in terms of takeaways, it's interesting that the funding, which was the reason behind the development of the creation of the BCYF fund, for the funds, to really provide support to those organizations that were already doing the work. But because of the systemic issues in this city regarding funding grassroots organizations, those funds never found their way to organizations like the ones we're talking about right now. So we want to make certain that we give credit where credit is due in terms of the creation of a fund that opened the door to a conscious head barbering boot camp, to a deeply speaking jewelry, to the Ryan Institute, because again, these folks were already doing the work. And what was so powerful was that they received enough funding to either kickstart their efforts, stop reaching into their pockets, but also had monies now to do some other things. And so we really want to highlight and lift that up as well. And as a result, my question it ties into the first question that David asked, and that is, the funding allow you all to identify or reach some benchmarks and to achieve some outcomes that you might not have been able to achieve had you not received those fundings. Expand on, those benchmarks or those outcomes that really, really allow you all, as a result of the funding, to really, really move your program to the next level. And we can go in the same order or we can reverse it. But let's go in the same order, Sister Dion.
Okay, so one of the things that I was really focused on with the program is to be able to not just educate kids, because they're using real tools to make jewelry and identifying them. And like Dr. Ryan talked about soft skills, I was surprised at, honestly, some of the stuff that the kids haven't been exposed to. And so just using simple materials to show them how to go from a concept and turning that concept into an actual product. That was a really big thing, to the point where I think we had about 3 of the girls who started their own jewelry line. So that was like so awesome to see that happen. And there's one that actually became joined Facebook a few months ago, and she's posting her pictures now. And I'm like, wow. So what I realize is, even in the long run, kids are still showing up and using those skills that they learned in the program. And one of the big things is following directions. And I was a classroom teacher in Baltimore City for 8 years. So I understood how difficult that can be to get kids to follow step-by-step directions. But this program actually elevated that for them. And I was glad to see that come to light. Like I said, we have kids now that are making jewelry on their own and starting an actual business, forming a business, and learning how to sell their products.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Can you repeat that question?
You're right. Outcomes and benchmarks you were able to achieve, as a result of the funding that you were able to achieve. And you touched on it in your opening comments, but again, I want you to expand on what, as we dig deeper into your program, you mentioned connecting apprentice with master barbers. You basically expanded on some of the things that you wanted to do, but could not do because you lacked the funding and the staff. But here you now receive sufficient funding or some funding that allowed you to not only indicate what some of those outcomes you wanted to achieve, but you actually achieved them. I wanted you to share some of those, maybe one or two of those outcomes that you were able to achieve.
Right. One of the things that we had a problem with our students, a lot of them can't afford initially the equipment that they need for the barbering program. You know, so a lot, I mean, because clippers can get expensive. I mean, you got some clippers that can go up to like $400, you know, for a pair of clippers. You know what I mean? The average cost of a clipper may be, you know what I'm saying, now, you know, about $100 or so. So equipment can get very expensive. So you're talking about for each person, maybe $600-700 just for basic package of, you know what I mean, for clippers to be able to cut hair. So the youth fund was able to help provide, you know, the equipment that, you know, barbers needed in order to get started with their barbering career. So that eliminated that problem that a lot of people had. So, you know what I mean, from cape to combs to all of this stuff gets really expensive, you know, with everything that you need, from the powder to even the little oil sheen that you put on people's hair. So that was a big help for a lot of people to be able to have the equipment available to be able to perform barbering services.
Excellent. Dr. Ryan?
Yeah, for us, so our outcomes, we focused on a couple of things. One was school attendance, right? You know, so one of the things that we kind of mandated, so to speak, was that any youth that participated in our program, you know, they had to be in school, you know, the day before we met, right? And so, in addition to the day that we meet, and so we definitely saw school attendance improve, and that was a big deal for us because, you know, we wanted students. Yeah, especially in some of the communities that we were serving, you know, some of the students, you know, truancy was a big deal, even at the elementary and middle school level, and so we wanted to make sure we saw school attendance improve. So we saw school attendance improve. I think it was about 15 percentage points. So that we saw our student attendance improve. The next thing, which was also big, is academic performance. Like I said, we wanted to really focus on soft skills and life skills for our students and see if that could translate into better academic performance, right? And so we definitely saw that transition to academic and performance improve. But then the last thing, which is probably the most important thing of all of it, was that we wanted to see our students improve in their self-confidence. We wanted to see them improve in their ability to take leadership in school or establish themselves as a leader in school. And we definitely saw that through, you know, we would get a lot of times emails from principals or even school admins that would email us and say, you know, hey, you know, Jayla such and such, she was doing really well. She, you know, she decided to, be head of the chess club or whatever it may be. And so we saw these students that were really starting to establish themselves as leaders. And we really believed that it was because of, helping them develop those soft skills, their confidence in themselves and their own ability began to improve. And so those were really the three outcomes that we really focused on, but definitely with the confidence and the self-awareness by far being the most important, because that to us was what, you know, if we can develop their confidence and develop their self-awareness, that's what's going to propel them as they continue to get older. That's something that, you know, if they knew that they had the confidence to be a leader, you know, as they get older and they face more and more heavier peer pressure, you know, they wouldn't necessarily fold, right? They'll make better decisions and things of that nature. So that's really what we were after. And we definitely saw that in a good majority of our students.
And Dr. Ryan, those funds that you received from the BCYF funds allow you to basically reach those milestones or to reach those benchmarks.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Because I mean, not only reach the milestones, but also reach more kids. See, that's really the important piece, right? Because without the funds, we were just at one school, right? You know, but with the funds, we was able to stretch to multiple schools, you know, hire staff. And then also, and one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is collaboration over competition, right? So we're bringing in other community organizations that are on the ground doing the work. And like Adam said, you know, we were very intentional about who we work with, right? And so we wanted the people that we work with to look like us, you know, to look like the kids that they were serving. And so we were extremely intentional, even down to our fiscal sponsor. Our fiscal sponsor will be considered a grassroots fiscal sponsor. And because of the fund, you know, they were also able to increase their capacity. So the fund did so much for us and so much for our community partners indirectly, that absolutely, you know, I think, you know, I wish, I'm feeling like this. I wish the fund could even serve or help even more organizations. And again, I know that there's a funding
Right.
threshold or whatever it may be,
Right.
but man, it was absolutely amazing.
But don't give it all away right now, Dr. Ryan.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
We're gonna get back to you, brother. But
Okay.
again, great information that you're sharing. And I guess, what you all are sharing with new applicants or those folks who are applying for the grants this time around is that the funds, again, provided support funding to basically achieve both quantitative and qualitative outcomes. You wanted to expand, so you were able to get some more money to basically, bring more young people into your program. And qualitatively, those are the soft skills. Those are going beyond just the so-called, counting numbers. You wanted to basically improve self-esteem. You wanted to improve academic achievement. You wanted to basically, add to your programmatic outcomes. And the funding allowed you all to do that. Great stuff. So David, I'm gonna let you go to question 3, and then we'll keep this moving. By the way, everybody out there, if you really have a question, because we're going to allow you to also chime in with any questions that you might have for our panel members. So if you have a question or two, please insert those into the chat box, and we will hopefully get to some of those questions as well. David?
Thanks, Richard. Important discussion. And to our 3 esteemed colleagues, first-year grantees, given that you've already been funded, there are a lot of folks who applied year 1, a couple hundred folks. You guys were in that number, so to speak. Given the fact that you've already been funded, what would you do differently? Realizing that applications are due on May 15th for the revised iteration of the Grassroots Fund, given that you have some experience in terms of managing that first year, second year pot of money, what would you do different, Sister Davidson?
So I learned a lot of lessons going through this process. One of the things that was a standout for me, and my fiscal sponsor and I talked about it, is that because there was such a wide array of ages in our program, I want to be able to break that down a little further so that the elementary kids can be together in middle school and high school, because what I realized is some of them weren't as comfortable speaking out on certain topics, and we wanted to be a safe space where they feel comfortable participating. And of course, moving forward, that's going to be something that we're going to be doing, breaking it down. And as I mentioned earlier, because our program is topic driven. So I'm gonna give you an example. For example, when we make wire jewelry, we focus on resilience. The topic is resilience. And we talk about situations where they may have struggled and how they came out on top. And some kids weren't comfortable, sharing in such a wider group. So I feel like if we break it down and separate the levels, they may be a little more comfortable. By the time they got comfortable, the program was ended. So we want that out the gate, starting out where they could feel that sense of, oh, these are my peers for real. They're my age, that kind of thing. So that was one of the things that I would definitely change. And I've also gotten to the point where we're hiring an actual teacher's assistant, because now moving to an in-person thing, we want to be able to give the students the attention that they need one-on-one. And so the ratio is going to be a little different moving forward. So asking for more money is one thing I would do differently, so we can hire the necessary staff to help run the program.
Really, really important. So I hear a couple of things. You would restructure some things in your program in terms of how to better support the wide age gap, or the I think you said you go from second grade to
12th
grade. Yeah, right. So you would restructure some things. You got excited when you started talking about asking for more money. So so you would definitely ask for more money. Now, do you think, and I know it's hard for you to probably determine right now, do you think in applying for more money, would the bulk of that money go toward programming, or would it be more staff to manage the existing programming?
It will be both. One of the things that I realize is kids like incentives. And so to receive incentives for doing a program like this, I think will be a great idea. And one of the, I don't want to give it away too much what we're planning, but one of the things that I know is that kids like social media. And it's also a great way to capture their testimonials, right? So having to incorporate, and that drives the attendance for the program. And if they're there more often, guess what? They learn more. So they're able to pick up on more skills, and those conversations that need to be had will be had. And like I said, because they'll be in a smaller, in a setting where they're in their age group, it will be a lot more feasible to get the information that we need to get to them.
Thank you, thank you. Let me go to Brother Jabari. Brother Jabari, I know today is a Saturday, and this is your big money day in the barbershop. So I know you're going to be leaving around 11, making all that money over at Conscious Heads Barbershop. Talk about what you would do differently, given the experiences that you've had in year one. What would you do differently?
So one thing that I wouldn't do, I wouldn't give the classes totally free to people, because a lot of people don't really appreciate that. You know, I get a lot of people who we put an advertisement on Instagram or Facebook. Hey, we got offering free classes. This is a chance for people like, oh man, that's an interest. Maybe I'll try barbering. Maybe I'll try, they don't really have a burning desire, but maybe I'll give it a shot, and when they get into the class, some of them, and I put them to work and they get to working, they might not want to stick with it, or they're not going to value the time. Now, my program, most of the people that graduate from my program, they pay me. So they pay their hard money. So they're going to come to the program. I just had a graduating class, and we just graduated 23 different students, that graduated, and all from through the ages of between 10 and 50 that graduated. Now, most of the young people that's in there, their parents make sure that if they're going to put their money up, they're going to make sure that their young people come to that program, and I got a lot of young people who really appreciate that. But when I put the post up, and for a lot of people, for the youth fund, and I said, hey, I got free classes, I noticed that there's a difference of the attendance and how they come, because they didn't have no skin in the game. So what I would do is I would cater more to the young, because I got some great young barbers that's coming up, like I said, in between the ages of 10 and 16, 17 years old. And one of the things that I would want to do, one of the things that we do through the program, we go out and we cut hair, like different events, homeless events, resource day events, and we take our barbers out, whether they're young or they're older, we take them out, and that's how they get their hair count up. That's how they're able to learn how to cut, by cutting more heads. And then we're able to help in the community by providing free haircuts. So it's a win-win situation that we actually are able to do. So I would more so focus the funds on cutting more heads, like going to schools, being able to do free cuts in schools, going to different shelters and different things. I would refocus it around there, because I would weed the people out through my program when they come through on the paid end, and then get the finances to help more so in helping and with providing for the homeless folks and just different people who need the services to get free grooming services and things of that nature. But that's one thing, yeah. Free, absolutely free? No.
You make a good point, Jabari, in terms of how we structure offerings even when we get a grant. Right. Sometimes, as you've indicated, just offering something for free may not necessarily work. And so one of the things that you're considering is kind of revisiting your model and maybe coming up with a small fee so that folks got skin in the game. If you paying something, that might increase your attendance. Let me go to Dr. Ryan and Jabari. I want to thank you. I know you got to jump off in a few minutes, and I do as well, but really want to thank you. And you guys in the building, definitely check out Conscious Heads Barbering Boot Camp. an innovative workforce development model in Baltimore. Historically, people have talked about the challenge around youth employment. And so Jabari, who is a first-year grantee, has provided an innovative way to look at the whole issue of workforce development. So thanks a lot, Jabari. So let's go to you, Dr. Ryan. Given the fact that you've already received some funding, what are you thinking about? What things would you change? What would you enhance? Would you ask for more money? Would you ask for less money? What would you do differently?
Yeah, so yeah, there's actually a couple of things that we would do differently. One, one of the things that we felt as though that we normally do with like our academic programs, but we didn't do with the Jewels and Gems, is definitely have a more aggressive family engagement piece, right? Because what happens is this: the students will come to us, they kind of learn some of these skill sets, and then some students, they will go home and they wouldn't necessarily have any reinforcement of these skill sets that we're doing, right? And so having that family engagement piece, whether it's, having, a mom, dad, grandma, uncle, whoever else that may be, maybe the parent figure in these students' lives, kind of engage them and, making sure that they have some of the resources to reinforce some of the things that we've been talking about in our programming. So that was one thing that we would definitely wanted to do, increase our family engagement piece. The second part was also work with or partner with a mental health organization, right, to help students and families to better understand how to manage the different traumas they may have faced throughout the years. Because what happens is this, we all have certain triggers because of things that we've experienced previously. And so for whatever reason, these triggers, these things, they kind of happen, and then we find ourselves kind of regressing, so to speak, back to some old habits that may not have been the best habits to have. And so I feel as though, hey, if we incorporate this mental health piece to help families and the scholars kind of work through different things, I think that would be definitely a great enhancement to our group. And then, to our program. And then the last thing, of course, is the applying for Tier 1 funding or looking to get Tier 1 funding. And that funding will allow us to really look at improving some of our equipment, as well as like our space, right? Because right now we're kind of like we utilize a lot of the school buildings as our space, but that becomes a problem. For example, when COVID happened, it was a big problem, right? Because we wasn't able to use the schools because the schools were closed. Well, if we had our own space where we could have students come in, they could still receive, or still be a part of the program in an in-person environment, right? And they, because that's what, especially the students that's in elementary and middle school, they're looking for more in-person, social gathering, so to speak. And so, that's one thing that we're definitely looking to do. Actually, with or without the funding, we're actually looking to, kind of secure a facility that we want to own. We don't want to lease it. That's another thing. We don't want to lease anything. We want to own it outright. But that will allow us to have programming. So when schools are saying, hey, we're closed, we're not in session, whatever it may be, we now still have a facility to be able to hold our programming, and families and young people can come and participate.
Thank you. That notion of ownership, Dr. Ryan, is a big challenge when you think about space and not having to conform or reconfigure your program, based on a school calendar or an external partner. And so, as Richard always lifts up this notion around, collaboration and community development are important keys to really help you, access space. And so, again, y'all, very, very rich dialogue. Before we go to the next question, Richard, you're gonna take that one because I got to get ready to jump out in a few minutes. There was a question in the chat around wanting some clarity around fiscal management or fiscal sponsorship. And I just want to make a couple of points around fiscal sponsorship. And Regina also put in the chat that this year's Grassroots RFP is a little different from year one. So we definitely want people to pay particular attention to, one, you have to have an operating budget of less than $25,000. There'll be anywhere from 30 to 35 grants. So again, we're talking a very small number of grants. Year one, I think it was 84. So this year, where there will only be 30 to 35, it will be $50,000 a year, each year for 3 years. And so the configuration has dramatically changed from year one. So I just want to make sure year one folks in the building are aware of that. In terms of fiscal sponsorship for those programs that are in the building or that will be listening to the recording, you may want to consider fiscal sponsorship in terms of if you are a startup organization and while you may be doing good work, you don't have a background in managing any grant money and you're really just getting out the gate in terms of fundraising, but you've been doing good work. And here's the reason, because there'll be external reviewers. The reviewers don't work for BCYF. The reviewers are trained and handpicked. And if a reviewer sees that your current budget is, let's say your current budget is $5,000 that you received from donations, or maybe you got a mini grant from Comcast or, Bank of America, and now you want to go from having a $5,000 grant to a $50,000 grant, the likelihood that you'll get it, it's going to be tough. And so your fiscal manager or your fiscal partner is, as it is stated, it's your partner. And so this is a group that already has a track record in raising money, managing money. They have all of the requisite documents that they would need to submit, the 990 audit. You stand a better chance of partnering with a group. For example, it could be a community organization that you already work with, that's been in business a little while longer, has the requisite documents that they need, has already been able to raise some money. You would submit a joint application to the fund, and your fiscal manager, again, you would create an MOU with them or contract, whatever term you would want to use, as to determine what checks would need to be written, how the program would need to be run, how the money is going to flow in and out, and your fiscal manager will be responsible for that, along with helping you with your quarterly reports. And so that's just a really quick, some tips, some things to think about in terms of the fiscal management. But please continue to drop your questions in. And Richard, you can go to the next question.
Real quick, because I know we're great information, David, on fiscal sponsorship. I would urge folks to also keep in mind that a recent commission report was released by the Annie E. Casey Foundation and the Open Society Baltimore entity released a report on fiscal sponsorship, the challenges and the opportunities. It's an excellent report. It's about 22 pages long of great information in terms of how to work with a fiscal sponsor. What are the challenges that you might encounter? Who are some of the fiscal sponsors in the area that have been somewhat vetted? And so we can offer that information to new applicants as well. But that is a recent report that I think will be a benefit to anyone basically considering a fiscal sponsor. And if you are not a 501c3, and even if you are, you might want to take a look at that report. Because we're going to lose Jabari and Dr. Ryan in a few minutes. And David, I guess the question I would want both Jabari and Dr. Ryan to quickly answer if they could. And Dion, we will allow, it might still be with us. But the question is, given all the lessons you have learned, all the experiences of working with your program and receiving these funds, what would be the best advice you could leave today for new applicants? For those who are now looking to apply for this grant, what would be the best advice you could offer? And Dr. Ryan, why don't you go first? I'll let Jabari go second.
All right. Thank you, Richard. So probably the best advice I will offer new applicants is this. So we talked about, or we just mentioned the fiscal sponsorship I thought that was a very important piece. Again, it essentially takes a responsibility off your back, right? You're already executing the programming, working with a fiscal sponsor for a nominal fee, so to speak. That really helps a lot. That kind of gets that quote unquote monkey off your back. But to me, that for us, probably the most important piece for us that really helped us was working with a TA. Working with a TA before we submitted that application was huge for us. Now, why do I say that? Well, for me, I have an engineering background, right? I have an engineering background. I just so happen to love Baltimore City, in particular, love the youth that I want to work with youth, right? So there's a lot of jargon, there's a lot of words that's used in this grant community that I was completely unaware of, right? And so I didn't know how to word certain things. So the way I would word certain things as an engineer is not necessarily how it should have been worded in the proposal process, and so working with a TA for us was absolutely huge. And because of that, before we submit any proposal now, we always looking for a TA to say, hey, take a look at this, tell us what you think, and tell us if there's anything that we need to reword, modify, anything like that. And then the second piece, all right, because I think also like Taronda, I think she asked an important question, which was what tools were used to track your data. The second piece was this. We also worked with a person that does data analytics. All right. And so we hired them basically with the fund. We used some money to hire them, but then after the fund, we kept them on board and paid them as well, because the data analytics piece is extremely important, and putting in processes on, how do you capture that data was extremely important, because now you have the data to tell that story, because every grant that we're applying to after that, they want to hear the story of the Ryan Institute and the students that we've served. So for us, utilizing TA, the technical assistance, before we submitted the proposal was absolutely huge, was crucial. And I think we met with the TA maybe like 3 or 4 times before we even submitted our proposal. And I'm not sure if you guys are doing it this year, but I remember one year, that first year, they had something at Reginald F. Lewis, and it was like a big gathering. And it was like almost like a speed dating type thing, where you get to meet with a TA for like 10-15 minutes, and that 10-15 minutes was absolutely was crucial for us. So that was the one thing. And then the second thing was, getting someone on board that does data analytics. Now because we worked with someone that did data analytics, now I can use my engineering background and make sure that my Excel sheet can kind of pull out data that I needed and so forth. So for us, what we did for our tools, we used a lot of Google Forms to generate surveys and get feedback from our families and from our students. And then we did the data analytics on that data there. So that was the 2 things that I highly recommend for all the new grantees or all the new applicants to utilize that TA. I mean, email, I'm not sure how they're doing it now, but like I said, however you got to reach out to them, utilize it as much as possible. No, there's no dumb question. Just ask the question, even if you know the answer. Just ask it just to make sure, because that's one thing I did. I just had to ask questions just to make sure we were doing the right thing. And we had some phenomenal TAs. Miss Sally, she was one of our TAs during the process, and she was absolutely phenomenal, and just helping us reword things and kind of and so forth. So that's what I would say.
How did you find the data analysts that you all eventually worked with? How did you all?
So that's a really good question. So we actually found this person through someone from the city that worked for headquarters.
Okay.
And because we were applying to, and in full disclosure, we was applying to this thing through the city, and we kept getting denied. And I was like, well, wait a minute, what is it that we're doing? And they kind of told us about it. And I was like, okay. And then we reached out to that person, and they helped us clean up a lot of our systems for how we were collecting the data, and then also how we were presenting the data. So we definitely implemented that for the fund, and literally we implement that process into every proposal that we're doing, just to make sure that we're telling the story of our impact, the students that we've helped over the years.
Fantastic. And I know you have to leave in a second or two, but Jabari has
No,
to go.
I'll be here. I think Jabari's leaving. I'm still gonna be here.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
And Jabari has to make some money.
David. It's Jabari and David that have to jump off.
Okay, so but Jabari, can you take 1 minute or 2 to offer your best advice to new applicants before you leave? And we'll let you go and make some money, brother. We're sorry.
I would say make sure that your team is strong. Make sure you have a strong team, and make sure your structure is straight. I mean, you know, I teach barbering, I cut hair. That don't mean that I'm strong at, you know, getting these reports and all those different things. So you got to make sure that you have your engine running well, because if you don't, you'll pay on the other end of the spectrum. So you want to make sure, I'll say over and over again, make sure you build a strong team. It's one thing that, yeah, okay, I got this budget, and now you got to know how to manage that budget. You got to know how to prepare, you know what I'm saying, and do most of the things that you need to get done. Because other than that, you don't want to fall into the pitfall of not having your paperwork correct and you have your things straight. So make sure you build a team, because there's people that specialize in that, and you got to link in with those people and make sure that you got those people on your team so that your engine is running smooth. I would say that's the most important thing. Make sure you build a strong team and a strong unit.
Outstanding advice by both you and Dr. Ryan. I'm going to let Dion also share, but Jabari, you want to thank you, brother, for taking the time to be with us this morning. And of course, we could pick your brain more, but you have a website. Give that information out to folks who are listening, because they can contact you. They can glean more from just checking out your website about your program, about where you're now headed, what you're doing these days, that I think is phenomenal in terms of the work that you are doing as a result of this initial grant that you received. You are doing some bigger and better things, and that we should all applaud you and praise you, brother. So thank you very much. Give your information out for folks who might want to contact you before you leave. Jabari, okay, he might have left, okay. I think we have your website, and we'll put that in the chat room before we end this discussion. Dion, answer that same question if you don't mind. You were shaking your head up and down as they were basically offering great advice. You know, work with your TA, work with, get as much technical assistance as you can, work with a data tracking organization. And we know that you can also go to universities or colleges and also go and get TA assistant, or not only TA assistant, but data tracking assistance or program metrics, evaluation support, and all that from Morgan and Coppin and other colleges in the area. So we know that those institutions are available, and they might provide the services at a nominal fee or no fee. So keep that in mind. And then make sure your team is strong, make sure your structure is straight. So those were some great advice coming from our 2 panel members. Dion, please share, if you don't mind, what your best advice would be to applicants that are listening right now to the session.
I was smiling and nodding because that is it right there. That is the bulk of it. Like, there is no one man, one woman band. You got to have a strong team. But first, your structure got to be in place. So with my program, the idea that I had was, I could just go in and teach jewelry making, because teaching is what I do. Jewelry making is what I do. But when it came time to make sure that everything was in order with the budget, and to my TA was so amazing. And also to do those expense reports and track everything, that is major. You need the help for that. So kudos to Be More Empowered, my fiscal sponsor. They were on top of things. So you need that type of support. You can't do it alone. And like Dr. Ryan said, it takes that pressure off of you to actually run your program and service the kids that you want to service, versus you trying to track everything down. So I was nodding. I was in the amen corner. I was like, that is it right there.
Right. So without a question, I mean, that's why everyone listening, what was so powerful about the fund this time around too, and they did it the first year as well, but they're offering over 100+ hours of free TA. That means that, if you really want to submit a outstanding proposal, a proposal that will give you the best chance for securing funding, the TA is available for you, from grant writing to writing your narrative to making sure your program metrics, outcomes are in alignment with your mission and goals and objectives. All of those sessions are being provided, not only in terms of virtual sessions, but also one-to-one in-person sessions will also be provided to you. Developing your budget, writing a narrative, everything that, as David said earlier, from soup to nuts in terms of what you need in order to submit, a quality budget that will let the funders know that you know what you are doing, that you basically understand the problem, and that you know how to solve this problem. And that, as Dr. Ryan mentions, and is one of my pet peeves, that we all talk about community outreach and collaboration and so forth, but there's a lot of talk. We need to really, really, hone in on why working with other groups and organizations and connecting with the community is so important, because as those connections go, so does your program. If you are connecting with the right organizations and there's intentionality with collaborating and understanding what you need in order to be successful, even if it's basically, as Dr. Ryan mentioned as well, in terms of strengthening your family engagement component of your program, all the things that will help you become successful in this effort, we are basically here to support you and to provide you with that information. And again, all the information can be secured by simply going to the BCYF website. Everything that you will need in terms of making appointments for TA support. We will have probably, I know, 5 or 4 more Saturday sessions. Some of them will be 4-hour sessions. This was an 1.5-hour session, but we will be having some open sessions, we call them Super Saturdays. And so Super Saturdays will allow you to basically tap into some additional support TA sessions, how to submit your application. And think about this, you all. Once you submit your application, what you can do starting yesterday, I believe, and you can submit your application from now until I think May 15th. Once you push submit button, you cannot go back in and make changes. So it means that you need to basically make certain that when you submit your application, it is tight. So all the things that our panel members have shared with you, all the things that you will gain from attending these TA sessions, take advantage of it. Because once you push the submit button, there is no getting that application back or proposal back to say, oh, I forgot this, or I need to, that's over. And so keep that in mind. And again, we are offering a lot of free TA sessions to any and everybody who would like to basically secure it. Any more questions in the chat before I pose another question to our panel members? And because we're running out of time, we have about 20 minutes left. We want
It
to
looks like
Go
Dr.
ahead,
Ryan
Regina.
has Dr. Ryan has his hand up, and then there are 2 questions from in the chat.
Excellent. Dr. Ryan.
Yeah,
Thank you, Regina.
Yep, this was in regards to what Richard was saying in regards to the application and the submission of the application. So one of the things that I recommend, and this is coincidentally, I actually recommend this to my students as they're applying for colleges and they're applying to scholarships and so forth. Do yourself a favor and do this. If you have Google Docs, or if you have, something tied to, some type of cloud-based, or even whether it's cloud-based or not, but just take the questions that are in the application, copy and paste them, and put them in a Word document, put them in a Google Doc or something like that, and then write to that. That way you can always save it. You can always kind of go back to it as necessary. And then before you submit it, then definitely take that to the TA, before your submission, and say, hey, this is what I've come up with. This is how I'm answering the different questions related to the application. It makes it a lot cleaner. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think BCYF had, I think the ability to save the application is there. However, it's always that time you accidentally hit the backspace or whatever it may be, and something gets deleted. So that's why I say, hey, copy the questions onto a Word document. Make sure you include the word count as well, because that's a big deal.
That's right.
And then respond to that on your Word document, and you can keep that on your machine. You can keep it in your, your Google Drive or whatever it may be, and then use that as your as your working document, so to speak. And then after you meet with the TA, after you kind of get some clearance that you're ready to move forward and submit it, then go ahead and copy and paste it in there. And then that way you kind of avoid some of those pitfalls of submitting before it was ready, or forgetting to include something of that nature. So that was just my recommendation. I'm pretty sure many people are already doing it, but for me, I felt as though that was very helpful for us to manage what we were doing, especially when you have multiple people working on the document.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. Deanne, you want to, any
That's
recommendations?
exactly what I do. That's exactly what I do every time I'm applying for a grant, because I always joke and say my ADHD brain can't see all that. I need to narrow it down.
Right.
And the last reason why that's important, and I'll be quiet in, is also a lot of these grants, they ask the same question over and over again. So if you already got it on your machine, guess what? You save yourself a lot of time when applying to the next grant. So, just something to consider.
Great advice to both of you all, and coming from both of you all. And again, you just said something very important. Most, if not all, grantors are asking some similar questions. And so this is great experience. Even if you apply for the BCYF grant and not receive it, we hope you do. But if not, you are preparing yourself to go after additional grants, and you will be 5 steps ahead of those who are starting off new. So good advice. We appreciate the advice coming from our panel members, but keep this in mind, there are only 35 grants that will be provided from the fund this time around. 35, approximately 35. At $50,000 a pop for 3 years, that will limit the number of folks who we think will apply. There will be a lot of folks who will apply for funding because everybody's looking for funding to support their programs. So keep in mind what has been offered and shared with you all. Work with your TA, attend TA meetings and sessions, engage in the one-to-one before you submit your application. Allow that TA consultant to really look over your application before you submit it. Cut and paste, do what Dr. Ryan and Dion just mentioned in terms of putting that information down on paper first before you insert it into the application, into the portal application, because once you again submit, you cannot retrieve it. And it's going to allow you to really be clean and be tight and be succinct, because there is not word count, but character count. So, that limits you as well. So again, but all this information, all this great advice is being offered in these TA sessions, and they will be available to you all up until the end of this process, which I think is May 14th or May 15th. The question in the box that I want to get to, there is a question that says here, Regina, I think I can read this. It says, let me see, if we are a registered 501c3, but we have a small budget, we should still team up with a larger organization. Is that correct? Okay, if we are a registered 501c3, but we have a small budget, we should still team up with a larger organization. Is that correct? Not necessarily. And Regina or Janine or Kieta, who is also on the line, if you want to chime in, you can. And these are other consultants on the line. It all depends on what your mission and goal is. What are you trying to accomplish? I mean, if you have a small budget and you are applying for this grant, your budget is going to increase by at least $50,000. Now, if you basically think you need more money because you need to hire staff or your program activities are going to cost you more money, then it might behoove you to consider joining with another organization that might be also doing some similar work that you're doing, that is simply going to allow you to expand your reach. It's going to allow you to maximize your resources. But again, not knowing what your small budget is, just keep in mind that you're going to be provided another $50,000 to do the work that you are basically set out to do. That is my quick response to that question. Regina, Kieta, or Janine, any other thoughts about that, or even our panel members?
I saw that question, and I think it was in response to the collaboration conversation that you all were having. So I don't think that was the takeaway necessarily. It's unless you want to leverage, like you can, when you join together, when you collaborate, you can do more. So I think when and where it makes sense to do that, then you should. But if you are a nonprofit with a smaller budget, you can go ahead and apply, because the truth is, for the Grassroots Fund in particular, it's only those organizations with organizational budgets of $250,000 or less are eligible to apply. So not necessarily, as Richard indicated.
Right. So we hope that answered your question. Is there another question here? Please see. Regina?
There was one that said, sorry. It was about what tools did you all use to track your data?
Oh, Dion, I don't know if you had a chance to respond to that question. I think Dr. Ryan.
Oh, okay.
offered some suggestions and advice. They went outside and were able to hire a data tracking organization or individual to help them do that. Dion, do you want to respond to that question at all?
It was a little easier to track mine, like I said, because we were virtual at the time. So I just tracked everything in Google Forms and Excel. It was just easier that way.
And again, we're suggesting that you consider contacting the universities in the area. I mean, they have excellent, academicians. This is what they do in most of the departments. And I know in community outreach, social work department, School of Social Work, other schools at Morgan and Coppin and the University of Maryland, Hopkins, they basically are looking to team up with community-based organizations for their research projects. And some of them will be more than happy to sit down with you and to assist you in developing your evaluation instruments or tools and surveys and all of that. So don't think you have to pay, because I mean, budgets don't necessarily always provide monies for evaluation for that aspect of your program. So you have to be creative and think outside the box, but also contact these 2 panel members and the 3 panel members that we have and continue to pick their brains in terms of what might be the best approach to really, really address this issue of tracking data, evaluation outcomes, program metrics. And again, TA sessions are being provided on those topics as we speak. So keep looking at your at the website for upcoming sessions, that all of these kinds of questions will be at least addressed and solutions offered to those of you who would like to basically figure this out. We have just a few minutes left. Okay, I'm sorry. Kieta, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Real quick on that topic of evaluation. So we look at big picture at the youth fund and this grassroots fund. It is for the purposes are bigger than this particular opportunity. So if evaluation is a concern or a challenge for your organization, take that question to one of these one-to-one TA sessions. We have about 8 TAs that are ready to go to answer and support you with any question that you might have. So say you're starting to write the application and evaluation and you're stuck there. That knowledge that you gave from that one-to-one TA doesn't have to only be used for this grant. You could take it to your board, have them review it, use it for another funder's application, use it to help build your program in another space, help to grow the program. So think of this as helping to build capacity that you can take with you beyond the youth fund and beyond just this particular opportunity. So I know Janine put it, there you go. Regina just put the link in there again. Like I said, we have opportunities 7 days a week, all times during the day. So please sign up. Oh my God.
So we've tried to remove, thank you, Kieta. We've tried to remove all the reasons why you cannot submit a successful grant application. We've simply said to everyone out there this time around that anything that you think you might need, you might not even know what you need yet, but there is opportunities for you to take advantage of the 100+ hours of competent, conscious folks who understand what this grant is all about, understand why the mission of the Baltimore City Youth Fund, making certain that grassroots organizations are included and that they will receive, especially those that may have not received monies before. Like Dion mentioned, she was taking money out of her pocket, and Jabari doing the same thing. Dr. Ryan didn't have enough money, but here is a fund that looked at folks who basically brown and black and other folks of color and said, look, we want to make certain that this time around you will receive the funding you need to at least kickstart your program, expand it, and address the young people. By the way, the goal of the fund, of course, is to help our young people thrive, survive, prosper, grow, dream, and all of that. So before I let you all go, there's a question that we had here, and we only have a few minutes left. And this question has to do with, can you share a story about a young person, at least one young person in your program that was positively, I know there are many, but one that you might want to lift up that was positively impacted by your program due to BCYF funding. Anyone want to take that before we leave?
I can
Both of
take
you
that.
can. Dion, I know you probably have 1,000, but we only want one.
This one in particular, I was actually really excited, and I always share this one in particular. There was a session where we were making a statement necklace out of pearls, and the title was "Every Girl Deserves Her Pearls." And I ordered all these pearls online, and they came without any holes, so you can't string anything in it.
Right.
I didn't check it before I sent it out. So I'm giving directions and telling the kids, oh, we're gonna do XYZ, and everybody's coming off mute like, the beads don't have any holes. What are we gonna do? And you know, I had to stay on my feet. And one of my students, who was always quiet, reserved, when I call on her, she doesn't really want to share, really shy. She said, I have an idea. I said, okay. So I said, I'm going to switch it up, and we're going to do earrings. We're going to create a cage for the bead so that it can sit in it and create earrings. And she sat there for like 2 minutes, and she said, oh, I know how to make the cage. Mind you, I never taught this skill, but I've taught similar skills that can put you in the space to do that. And she was like, is it okay if I share with the group? I said, girl, yes, you really talk. Yes, it's okay. And she led that portion of the jewelry making session. And so the way I was going to show, I was like, oh, all right, do your thing. She handled that like a pro. So to see somebody who lacks confidence, is like, oh, I don't want to, even though I'm older, I don't want to be the leader, to say, no, I got this. That's the goal of our program. We want kids to feel safe speaking up. We want them to feel confident leading and sharing. And that's exactly what came out of that. She led that like a champ, and everybody followed along just like I was teaching. So that was amazing.
Beautiful,
and
beautiful.
Somebody asked the question, how do we, I think it's how do we measure self-awareness and confidence? That's how you measure it.
And storytelling and basically sharing these kind of stories. Dr. Ryan, you can, if you want to. I mean, you might have so many that you can't pick one, but if so, how would you answer that question? Is there one student in the program that stands out?
Yeah, so coincidentally, very similar story in which we had a young lady that was, pretty shy and meek. We just kind of watched her develop into this leader, to the point we actually hired her as one of our youth interns. So when it comes to our summer program, she's actually one of our youth interns that really help, manage the younger kids and things of that nature. So, that's definitely one of the things, that we absolutely look for, right? We want to see our kids not only, take on this information, but we want to see them utilize it, right? Improve, improving their confidence, but more importantly, improving their leadership, and that results into positive decision making. Setting the example of what you need to be, especially in the midst of the younger kids. And so, Jayla is one of our students. Like I said, we brought her on as a summer intern last year, and she'll be a summer intern this year as well. So fantastic.
You all know we could keep going on, but out of respect for everybody's time, this was a session that started at 10 and will end at 11:30, on pretty much on the dot. But we can't thank you all enough. And of course, there are other questions, but we hope those of you who are on this call, in this webinar, that you have benefited from the insights and the lessons learned, the experiences of our outstanding panel members. And of course, they have different missions and goals, but basically bottom line, they were all nodding and shaking their heads in terms of the advice they can offer you all. One of the things that we will highlight over and over again: work with the TA team that you have access to. Kieta, who is leading a lot of the TA one-to-one, and also the virtual sessions, as well as the strategic resources group with Regina, Janine, and myself, and David Miller. There are 8 other folks that you can meet one-to-one. There are enough of us around and available to assist you all, again, in helping you figure this out and to submit a successful proposal. Just want to thank you all again. Regina and Janine have been putting into the chat box all of the different links. We hope that you basically took advantage of copying those links and taking advantage of then going to those sites, getting this information, everything from fiscal sponsorship to grant writing to what TA sessions are coming up next. And there are a number of them that are coming up. Again, if you are ready to submit your proposal, the portal opened, I think, yesterday. And so you can submit your proposal, but I would have it checked. And I would take the advice of both Dr. Ryan and Dion in terms of making certain that you have read it 5 times, not just once, but reread it and make sure that all your T's are crossed and all your dots are, and you've dotted all your I's. Anything else before we leave? Sister Dion and Brother Dr. Ryan, before we leave. You don't have to now, but if you have one parting statement or you want to share, Dion, you came off of mute, please share.
Don't wait till the last day to apply like I
Love
did.
it. Say it one more time. Say that two more times, Dion.
Don't wait till the last day. When I applied for this grant back in 2018, I literally applied 3 minutes before the portal closed. Don't do that. It's stressful. No.
You may not get it in. Something may happen on the technical end. So if you wait 3 minutes, Dion, oh my goodness, 3 minutes. Okay. But that is precious, priceless advice. Don't wait till the last minute. Work with your TA team. Work with a data tracking organization or find one, and we can help you find one. Make sure you know your team is strong, specialized. Find folks who have specialized skill sets to assist you and support you, and again, make sure you're structured. Your back office and your front office is also very strong. We want to thank all of you all for being a part of this session this morning. We hope, again, you gained something from the insights and the eloquent, powerful, amazing advice and suggestions, recommendations provided by our panel members to our team, our TA team that basically are on this call to support this effort. Thank you all. And to the Baltimore City Youth Fund team as well. We want to thank Adam for assisting in all aspects of this effort. And Alicia Lee, who is the new executive director. Some of you know her, have met her, but if not, you will meet her in some of these sessions. Go to the website, get as much information from the website as you can, because everything is there for you. And I hope you all have a safe and wonderful and powerful weekend. Thank you, Dion. Thank you, Dr. Ryan. We appreciate you. We love you all. Keep doing the great work that you all are doing, and we know we'll see you all again in the near future. Did I leave anybody out, Regina or Janine, before we end?
Nope, that was everything. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Alicia, just wanted to ask if you wanted to just say anything.
Oh, Alicia's there.
For today.
All right, okay.
I was just putting on some lipstick so I could join.
Miss Alicia, we didn't know you were there.
How are you, Mr. Rowe? Good to see you. Good to see you. Hello, Dr. Ryan. Hello, Dion Davidson. Yes, so I haven't met the two of you, but I've read all about your work. Both of you as former grantees, and we're excited that you're applying again, that you're here sharing your wisdom and your experience with BCYF with folks. We definitely, I just want to encourage everyone, take this. I've been here listening to this peer wisdom that's been sharing down, take this wisdom from successful grantees and utilize it to build up your capacities as you're elevating your work with your communities in terms of this application, but also with the robust, incredible expertise of the TA team for BCYF. This is a lot of resource. And I love so much when Kieta said, this is not just for this grant.
That's right.
This is a resource to you that you can use to communicate about your program to all of your stakeholders, right? You can use it to communicate to families about the importance of the work that you're doing, to communicate to other funders, to help your board or to attract new board members, right? To really clarify what's the beauty and the incredible things that are happening with the young people that you're working with day to day. How can you wrap in folks? And this level of communication is, these questions in the application are built to help you with the storytelling of your organization. So please make sure that you're jumping in early, that you're taking advantage of all these opportunities. Like Richard said, the grant portal opened yesterday. And organizations already started filling out profiles. And it was very exciting, very exciting. And so we have about 4 more weeks of support, and we hope to see you all at some of our in-person events and more virtual events. Thanks, everyone.
Alicia, thank you so much for those parting comments. And Dion, one more time, what's that advice you just gave? Don't what?
Do not wait till the last minute.
We love you. Thank you, Dion. Thank you, Dr. Ryan.
Thank
You all have
you
a great
all.
weekend, everybody. Be safe, be well. Peace.